who here knows this guy? Who here knows him? I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't know who he was until I heard that he had posted a picture on Instagram. So this is a Channel 7 journalist who's been in the business for quite a while. Denham Hitchcock, that's right. And he's been hospitalised and he made the decision to post a photo. Why could this be considered controversial? Well, it occurred after vaccination, and it seems that there is reasonable grounds to conceive that it could be tied to the vaccine. So let's have a look at this and have a look at what he's saying. All right, so this is his Instagram account right here. I'm going to read to you what he said here because it's pretty interesting. All right, so this Denham Hitchcock, he said, I've battled over whether to send this post from hospital or not. Okay, so that's interesting that it was a conflict and that it wasn't just like an automatic thing, like, yeah, he had to actually think about it. So that actually tells you a lot right there in his opening statement, that he was concerned about the backlash, all right? He said, but decided after 27 years of being a journalist whose primary goal is to discover the truth, it would be hypocritical not to. Okay, so he made the right call there. Disclaimer, first, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, right? The obligatory disclaimer, but I'm really not pro-vax either. I'm pro-choice and pro-information to make that choice. So, pro-information, maybe if he had watched the MCJ report, he would have potentially made a different choice. I'm not too sure. But anyway, I'm going to keep reading along here. He's pro-opening the country up, and to do that, he doesn't see any way around it apart from getting the majority of Australia vaccinated. Well, the only reason he doesn't see around that is because he lives in this bubble of the mainstream media, this bubble of government rhetoric and narrative, and I'm not sure how much of his own sort of independent digging he has done on this matter, or if he's familiar with the Great Barrington Declaration, or many of the tremendous doctors who take exception to the government mandates of directions, masks, social distancing, etc. So I'm just kind of breaking down his words as I see it as we go along here. He says, so he got the Pfizer shot, all right? And, you know, I'm not having a go at him, but it's just an interesting sort of, for me, this is like a really interesting window into the mind of somebody whose entire life is based around the mainstream media and government. All right, it says here, the first week was like any vaccine. He wasn't feeling great. But nearing the end of the second week, his heart started to race. I was getting pins and needles in the arms, extreme fatigue, and a very strange sensation of dizziness. I took Nurofen and I kept working. By the end of the third week, I was getting steadily worse. See, that's why I said before that with the Ausvax safety, they send the survey after day 3. But what if the side effect occurs after, say, 1 week or 2 weeks? So that's why that 45.7% figure, I think it needs to be scrutinized. I really think it does. All right, anyway, he said that, he goes on to say, sharp chest pain, cold shivers and chills, and the dizziness was intense. 25 days after the shot and probably a little late to hospital, but here I am diagnosed with pericarditis, or inflammation of the heart due to the Pfizer vaccine. That's pretty serious, ladies and gentlemen. Goes on to say, since being here, I've contacted health professionals I know in Sydney, and while it's rare, it's certainly not isolated. One hospital has had well over a dozen cases like me. This is not a post for sympathy. The hospital and staff at Gold Coast have been beyond great, and although it's all new territory, I'm told I'll make a full recovery, and I hope he does. He says, thankfully, I have the world's smallest nurse keeping an eye on my prison. Okay. He goes on to say here, if you don't want the vaccine, I don't have a problem with that either. But life and travel will get difficult for you. See, so he's talking about life and travel. He's not talking about the deadliness of a virus. Okay, so you got to read between the lines with what Denham is saying here. He said, the only thing for me that's dead certain, if they don't open Australia up when we reach the milestone of 70%, then there'll be a lot more people marching in the street. Denham, why do you believe these politicians? Why do you believe them? That's what they told to the people of Israel. They hit 70% and they're living under the most draconian lockdown arrangements that they have ever been subjected to. My other question for Denham is, what reason do you really have to believe the government? Last year, Scott Morrison said the vaccine wouldn't be compulsory. He said, we're not going to hold you down and make you take it. He made a big joke out of it. And now what do we see? We see workers' rights being stolen from underneath them. one broken promise after another. One broken promise after another. So I don't know if it's idealism that Denham is holding on to in relation to the government keeping their promises, or maybe I'm overly skeptical. Maybe I should be more, no, I was going to say maybe I should be more trusting of the government. No way. I don't trust the government as far as I could throw them. As far as I'm concerned, there are far too many liars and manipulators that work within the walls of our parliament. He ended up saying, keep your damn promise, which is good. And I like his approach, but it also, as I said, this is like a window into the mind of somebody that lives and breathes mainstream media and government edict. All right, so is interesting about this guy. He's a real healthy guy. He's into his health. I'm not sure. I don't know where he's at. I'd love to talk to the guy. I would love to talk to him. He tried this challenge. Look at this. Here's an article here from 2017. He did a 5-day fast, which is interesting. There's been many scientists that have expressed confidence that fasting for intermittent periods can help to increase health, increase metabolism, and so forth. And he went and gave it a go. Here's what the blood test showed. Mr. Hitchcock's body had experienced a dramatic growth in stem cells that repair and replenish diseased and damaged tissues. Now, this is coming from the Daily Mail. So the guy's into his fitness. So you really need to ask yourself the question, what's going on here? Anyway, put your thoughts in the comments. I really don't have much else to say about that.